Hello everyone, as always, I'm Vlad Sparastoria. I shoot and I know things about shooting. If you like the Glock, you'll definitely like the new version of the Glock too. Because what kind of company doesn't update the design of the most popular pistol right now, probably in the world? We all know the Glock for sure in many different sizes, in many different versions, but mechanically speaking, they're almost always the same pistol. The 6th generation Glock is a new step introduced by the Austrian company. It absolutely doesn't aim to be a revolution from any point of view, because it's still the same old good Glock, but it has some small improvements, especially ergonomic ones, that definitely make it a very interesting product. For now, there are only 4 Glocks from the 6th generation, the 17, the 19, the 45 that we have today, and the 49. I'm glad I get to try a 45 today because frankly, among the ones listed, it's definitely my favorite. If it wasn't for a 45, I probably would have chosen the compact 19. You know my love for compact pistols. But let me tell you something while we're at it. Before we take a closer look at exactly what our Austrian friends have done, let's fire a few rounds just to warm up. It's nice, I like it. Let's move the camera and take a closer look at how it's made. The good old Glock case is always the same. From the outside, you would never be able to tell that it's actually a 6th generation. And inside, it's the classic Glock case. With the pistol, 2 magazines, one inside the gun, and some cleaning accessories. In case you don't have it yet, think about someone buying their first gun, like a security guard or someone else. And a very useful manual booklet. Remember something very important. Read the darn manuals. I've told you this more than once in many of my different videos. Manuals contain very important information. For example, regarding how the weapon works. For maintenance, for instance, look at the points where it needs to be oiled. You only use a little oil on weapons to lubricate them and make them work. The manual reminds us of this. It's very useful to keep, so keep it as well. Maybe if one day you want to sell a weapon, because the new owner, if he's like me, will be absolutely grateful to you. So let's take a closer look at our weapon. We've already said that this is a Glock 45, meaning the slide and the barrel. It has the short slide and barrel of the Glock 19, the compact version, while the frame and the grip are full size, like the Glock 17. A real Glock 17 would have here about 1.5 centimeters, maybe 2 more of barrel and slide. This greatly improves its balance. It's something I've already talked about in the past, discussing it extensively over the years. The Glock, broadly speaking, the 45 probably, at least when it comes to service weapons, mainly for defense, for holster carry, is probably my favorite from this point of view. This Glock is chambered in 9x19, as you can see from the writing on the slide of the gun. Glock, like many other companies, has stated that they will no longer produce new firearms. Honestly, in 9x21, the ballistic differences with the 9x19 are non-existent. The international production of 9x19, both in firearms and ammunition, is much greater than the production volume of 9x21. Honestly, having separate production lines just for Italy doesn't make much sense from a commercial point of view. So in this caliber, at least for now, unless someone starts making special barrels in 9x21, that's how you'll find them from the factory. We also obviously reiterated that a Glock, in case the model wasn't clear, is the Generation 6 Austria, because obviously these are Austrian pistols. The Glock logo is currently reproduced on the grip, and on the right side we only find the serial number and the proof marks. Other markings we find, as you can see again, are made in Austria and the ZN here on the other grip panel. And of course, there's also information about patents and very modernly a website where you can look them up. Tell me, how often do you find a website marked on a firearm? You can see that from this point of view, they are keeping up with the times. What are the main differences between the 6th generation Glock and those of previous generations? The improvements that have been made are almost exclusively ergonomic. From what I have observed, the trigger mechanism is essentially the same as the 5th generation. So from this point of view, it's already a bit improved compared to the previous 4th and 3rd generations. We can obviously see all the improvements. On the outside of the weapon, the most noticeable thing is this texture, this very prominent and also quite aggressive checkering. But it also follows a very anatomical profiling to what should be the grip of the hand. Now, do you know how much I emphasize ergonomics in firearms, especially in handguns? The weapon has to feel good in your hand in order to perform well. Honestly, it fits perfectly in my hand because it almost ideally guides me to the grip. It's still outdone by the Fabrique Nationale 509 from this point of view, but we're definitely getting closer to perfection. What stands out to many people is actually a good thing. As we'll see during the live fire test, it's this checkering actually on both sides. This checkering is used during a two-handed grip to rest the thumb of the weak hand. Honestly, it's a well thought out feature. I'll say it during the test. Many people, especially beginners, have trouble finding a place to rest the thumb of their left hand, and this helps a lot. There's also a very slight step. As you can see, this is a well thought out feature. It really helps with the correct two-handed grip. Another change we find is the lengthening of the so-called beaver tail. The beaver tail, basically that part that protects the hand over which the slide will pass. And this way, it's almost impossible to get hurt. It also encourages your hand to be a bit higher so you can grip the pistol a little better. Many people, especially beginners, are a little afraid of this slide that moves and can hurt them. Other differences, we have a much flatter trigger compared to previous generations, and we have this protective part on the slide stop lever that's a little bigger. There's always the risk, especially during handling in stressful situations or in the hands of beginners, but even for more experienced people, of accidentally. For example, slipping your hand on the slide stop lever and, for example, deactivating it manually. So the weapon, for example, doesn't stay open after the last shot. This should help a bit to mitigate this problem. On the other hand, you might say that it makes the hold open less accessible. Well, it's called a slide stop lever, not a slide release lever, and there's a reason for that. Another modification, quite obvious, will make some people happy, as always, and others sad, is that Glock has changed the mounting system for red dots. In fact, the old modular optic system has been abandoned in favor of this new mounting system. It's low profile. The profile here is really low, and for some dots you won't even need mounting plates to install them. This way we can mount them much more easily and even just a bit lower exactly. Many people like the red dot, others don't, but it has definitely become a standard in the industry by now. As for modern firearms, the vast majority of modern firearms have, or at least have, a version of the same firearm with an optic mounting system. And we're in 2026. For the rest, in every way, it behaves just like a good old Glock. Let's just take a quick look inside to see if there are any significant changes. As always, we make sure the firearm is unloaded. We can now lower the slide release levers here and separate the slide from the barrel. And the recoil spring from the rest of the frame. There's really not much science to disassembling a Glock, as you can see honestly at a glance. At this point, I don't see any obvious differences compared to the 5th generation ones. It looks literally the same to me. I wouldn't be surprised if it was interchangeable. The good old system, the Glock Safe Action, which probably makes it one of the safest firearms on the market from this point of view. At least as far as striker-fired systems are concerned. I'm watching T-SIG, so watch and learn. From this point of view, there's not much else to say except to put these ergonomic improvements to the test. How can we test them? Well, first of all, we need to reassemble the firearm. Even here, it's not a complicated operation, thank goodness. Ergonomics have also made great strides in recent decades. We can put the slide back on the frame of the firearm, and all that's left is to go to the shooting range and test it thoroughly. What are pistols for if not to use them, especially at the shooting range, to try shooting them? We have our magazine. We're using 124 grain 9x19 Geico rounds as we discussed, and now we can insert the magazine. Let's load our first round and see how this pistol performs.
Boom, 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 boom.
the shots, they go straight. It's pretty hard to miss from this point of view. Obviously, let's unload the weapon. You know what? Let me load some more rounds because it's good to test these weapons more than once. Sometimes when I make these videos, it's kind of hard for me to find things to say. So at first glance, it's very different from any other Glock you've tried. Absolutely, absolutely not. I challenge a lot of people to pick up a Glock without reading what generation it is or any of those other things and to recognize it right away. Honestly, most shooters don't notice the slightest difference, which generation. But they do use these first small ones because they're small improvements to the gun's ergonomics and you can feel them a little bit. Let me fire a few more shots and I'll tell you, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you, too.
So I'll tell you this, as the very first thing about the grip, it's definitely a huge, huge, huge improvement. Glock never claimed to have invented anything new, nor to have reinvented the pistol with this generation. They are small progressive improvements by their own ambition. But you can feel it. First of all, this point for the thumb rest while we close the grip with the weak hand is very useful. It happens to me very often here on the shooting lines at the Legnano shooting range that I have to explain to beginners, how do you grip the weapon? And sometimes trying to rest the left thumb here on the frame, many people have trouble finding a good spot. Nothing that a bit of experience can't fix or improve, but I can tell you this is actually the correct spot to rest your thumb. The weapon itself tells us this quite clearly, and it helps us a bit too, not just physically for support, but also to reinforce the message that that's where the thumb should go. The grip is very nice. I have to say they definitely did a great job. You know that especially in the past years, especially I would say at the beginning of my journey as a shooter, I didn't like the Glock. It definitely wasn't love for me. At first glance, however, over time, with the evolution of some models, like for example the Glock 45 that we have today, so a change in balance. From this point of view, I had a better feeling because these ergonomic improvements are small, but in the end they add up. The texture is very aggressive. These little pyramids, we could say, remind me a bit of my Fabrique Nationale, which you know how much I love, and I like this thing. I don't like smooth grips. My hands are becoming like a CrossFitter's, full of calluses, so I have no problems. I don't hurt myself if I grab a texture like this, and I really like this because you can grip it and it really stays in your hand completely still.
Thank you. Thank you.
Going straight is straightforward and it's nice, I repeat. Many people expect when they buy a new weapon or the new version of some pistol, whether it's Glock, CZ or Beretta, that the weapon will suddenly shoot by itself and perform miracles. Firearms certainly don't perform miracles, but improvements, if they are intelligently designed, as they are in this case, make sense. I like it, thank you. Thank you. Honestly, it seems very different to me from the 5th generation, which improved a little here as well. The Glock trigger is terribly misunderstood. It's not the best sport trigger you can find on the planet. Also because the Glock wasn't created as a sport firearm, nor does it have the intention or ambition to be one. Actually, it's a bit stiff for some people, for beginners, yes, without a doubt. Honestly, there's nothing that bothers me. Honestly, the fact that it's slightly flat doesn't make any difference to me. Many people go crazy for having a perfectly flat trigger. Others want one that's a little more curved. I'll be very honest, maybe I should compare it with a really curved one, but I don't feel a big difference. The release is definitely crisp. Thank you, thank you. We've already seen this with the 5th generation, and it helps a lot. I'll tell you something that maybe many people don't notice. The end here of Elsa, where it curves back, is called beaver tail, and in English, the beaver's tail gives you some safety when holding your hand very high on the grip. It's not strictly necessary, but it definitely helps. A person, maybe less experienced, who might, out of fear of the slide, which could injure their hand, might risk holding it that way. A little lower, and even just a millimeter lower, can drastically change how you handle the weapon. And the point of impact helps a little, definitely from this point of view. Then the main reason why I'm liking it, this pistol isn't so much a 6th generation as it is a Glock 45. So with the slide, the short barrel of the 19, but the large grip of the Grazie. I've said many times that this combination of features, just like the 19X, which is identical in size, is my favorite. It's also a matter of how the weapon balances in the hand. The 6th generation Glock is an interesting product. As I said, don't expect any revolution. It's not a magic weapon. Oh my God, the 6th generation is out, the magic weapon that shoots by itself. Absolutely not. It's an interesting progressive improvement. I would say it's an improvement based on what we've seen and what I saw today in particular. It's absolutely spot on. These changes that have been made are absolutely, at least, thank you. They make you appreciate the weapon more and more. I can honestly say Glock and the importer don't pay me, but if I had to buy a new Glock, I don't see why it shouldn't be this one, the 45 in particular, of the same generation. The grip in particular is what really convinces me it makes a big difference. Shooting, aiming is simple. Even a trained monkey can line up the sights, keep the weapon steady during the shooting phases. The hard part is having good ergonomics. That makes all the difference. Thank you all for watching this video. As always, remember that you are literally the ones who make these videos, you, just like today. The owner of this wonderful 6th generation Glock who came here to Tiresegno di Legnano to let me try it. If you have other interesting firearms, maybe ones you keep in your collection or hidden somewhere, write to me. I'm always happy to try out both modern, interesting pieces, but also older things, as you surely know, which I love. If you're interested in contributing directly to my channel, consider subscribing. We have exclusive initiatives for subscribers, like exclusive videos, or for example, the event I'm preparing for April 19th. There are 3 spots left at this moment while I'm filming. So if you want to spend a whole day with me and Davide Pedersoli at Polvernera, subscribe and join in. It's free. Thank you. At the very least, consider leaving a like, a comment, and subscribing to me as a content creator. It really helps a lot. YouTube really doesn't like firearms at all, and you don't really earn anything by featuring them. And at least give me the satisfaction of flipping the middle finger to the media power that doesn't want firearms.